Hello, and welcome back to another film review, a current new release film review, which is a rarity for me, as is going to the cinema in general. And this past Monday, all of a sudden, it all came together very quickly, and I found myself going to not just one cinema, two different cinemas on the same day for a very strange and interesting double bill of new release films. The first being Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, which was just unbelievable. I'll try and collect my thoughts for a video on that at some point soon. And then the second, at a art house cinema in Cardiff, I went to see the new film from Carol Morley, which is Typist, Artist, Pirate King. I have the badge to prove it. And it was a nice little kind of preview screening, kind of. The film came out, I think, today. I'm recording this on Friday, the something of October. I don't know. I don't keep up with dates. But this weekend, I think it's like, well, it's the 31st on Tuesday, so 30, 29, 28. It's the 27th of October, 2023. This will probably be going up on the Saturday. And I'm really making this, I mean, I want to talk about it anyway, and I will as we get into this video, but I really want to right from the get-go here, because this is, you know, a lower budgeted film, an independent film, a British film, you know. It's not your big budget release. I would really urge people to go check this film out. I think it was a really, really good comedy drama. There's an interesting mix there, which I'll get into as I talk about my thoughts on the film, and my thoughts on the director as well. But I would say try and find a local cinema. I don't know if it's playing in like the big like Odeon View Cine. Well, it might. If it is, all the better. I recommend you go and see it. I went to see Jessica Stevenson's The Fight, and that was in an Odeon cinema. So it's very well possible that it could be showing in those cinemas too. But I would really recommend check the trailer out. I would actually recommend maybe not watching all of the trailer, because it kind of spoiled a few things for me that I would have liked to have kept fresh going into the film, because I did watch the trailer beforehand. But just check it out, see if it's your kind of thing. Or I'm going to talk about it, of course. You can stick around. I won't spoil anything really major about the film. But I just would highly, if I can get one person to go and see this, that would be great, you know. But otherwise, and I don't normally do that, but I just think, you know, it's a film that maybe many people are not even aware of, and that's kind of the impetus for this. And I wish I could do this more. I wish I could go to see these lesser known and lesser seen films if I just don't have the time or the means. But for some strange reason, I was able to get this Monday night off work, which is just like a few days in advance. I have no idea how it happened. It was kind of like it was meant to be, right? So, and I found out about this on Twitter, and I'd followed, I'll get to the film soon, trust me. I might even put a marker somewhere where the review of the film actually starts for Typist, Artist, Pirate King. So Carol Morley, I've only seen one of her other films before, which is The Falling, which I think I watched off the back of a Mark Commode review, and he was really enamored with the film, and so I checked it out. Really liked it. Really strange kind of film. Very interesting, and starred a young Florence Pugh, who I just remember thinking like had an aura about her, which is not me noticing anything remarkable that no one else did, because clearly it's there, and clearly she is now one of the, I would say, best actresses working today, best actors, period. Anytime she does anything, I'm interested in seeing what she does. I think she's phenomenal. But, you know, that was a really good, interesting film. Set in like I think it was boarding school for girls, and there was this weird affliction where they would just start fainting, the falling, right? And it was an interesting film. Nothing like incredible, but like I was really intrigued by the premise, and I thought that it was a bit of a strange film, but really worthwhile at the same time. So I liked it a lot. And so I guess off the back of that, I followed her on Twitter, the director Carol Morley, and from there I found out about this film, her newest film. And I'd seen the hashtag Typist, Artist, Pirate King. I thought it was maybe this a documentary. I didn't really look too close. You know, you scroll through Twitter and it just is what it is sometimes, right? But for some reason, I think it was like 2 weeks ago maybe, she tweeted something to the effect of, has everyone seen the trailer yet? And I thought, well, shit, I haven't seen the trailer. Let's see if this is a narrative film, documentary, whatever. So I checked out the trailer and I thought, this looks really good. Road trip, I'm in. Kelly MacDonald, I really like her as an actress, I'm in. So I figured I'd probably catch it when it comes out on Blu-ray, if it makes it to Blu-ray. But then there was another tweet about like a series of Q&A screenings across the UK. And whenever I see something like that, I always look at Cardiff just so I can go, yep, working, forget about it. If it's like a stand-up artist or a music thing, a gig, or a screening, it's always on a day that I'm working. This one, sure enough, Monday, I'm working, oh well. I just thought, well, what if I could get it off? And so I put out the feelers and I got the night off and I thought, well, shit, let's try and squeeze in a 3.5 hour Martin Scorsese film as well. So it's really just, wild that it even pulled together for me, given how busy I am these days. So it was a wonderful day at the cinema, in two different cinemas. And it's quite a trek to get to the chapter arts because it's not in the center of Cardiff, and I always forget exactly where it is. So it took me about 45 minutes of walking through these streets until I finally found it. And then I went and kind of watched the film. And there was a Q&A with Carol as well. She was there she didn't really introduce the film too much. I liked what she said at the beginning, which was something to the effect of, I'll let you explore the film for yourself first before I kind of say anything that will affect your viewing. So that was nice. And then she did a pretty lengthy Q&A afterwards, which was really, really good. And I'll talk about that at the end. Let's get to the film, talk about this movie. It's about a real person called Audrey Amiss, who was a woman who had a kind of promising art career. She went to study at an art college, I think it was, and she was very good, had a very interesting eye, and they show some of her actual paintings throughout the film itself. And really, really good artist, but she had a bout of mental health problems and was sectioned. And this is many, many, many decades ago, where I would assume this kind of thing was not as maybe well funded, not as well researched, nowhere near the level of awareness perhaps or perception that mental health issues might have these days. And it might have just been a case of, and from what I gleaned, the things that Carol said in the Q&A after the film, she was just kind of thrown in a room, and kind of given drugs, to kind of just sedate her almost in a sense. And that's, I'm sure that's not exactly how it happened, but that general kind of, I don't say neglect, because again, I don't know enough about it, of course, but like just not giving it that kind of the proper attention that it would deserve. And so she kind of, floundered in that sense with her art, but she always kept up with it, and it kind of morphed as she kind of got older into very interesting kind of patchwork pieces of like, collecting wrappers of food that she'd eaten, and just like sellotaping it to pieces of paper and writing about like, the font or the color of the design and everything. And these really I really loved the kind of very minimalist, kind of scratchy drawings that she would do with lots of annotations and stuff. So her art changed over time. But it was a case of, when she died, there was this huge collection, like just tens of thousands of like pieces. And that was the inspiration for this film, was to explore this woman who had these mental health issues, which aren't really labeled exactly. And the movie itself is kind of a fictional story of Audrey going on a road trip with her psychiatric nurse, played by Kelly MacDonald. And I'm always gravitating towards road trip movies. I think there's just something about it can be multiple characters, but specifically two characters on the road. You kind of learn something about the other, even if you are close friends, and it's a perfect kind of staging ground for kind of drama and humor. I think the kind of road trip template, and it gets right into it. The film really just kicks right into this road trip, and you're off to the races. And I really like the chemistry between the two actresses. And the actress who plays Audrey, I thought, is it Monica Dolan? I think I want to make sure I get that right, because I hadn't really seen her in anything else or heard of her before, so I want to get her name right. Yeah, Monica Dolan, I was correct. And Kelly MacDonald, who plays the nurse. They have really good chemistry together. They play off each other well. But what I really found interesting was the mental health side of it and Audrey's issues as depicted in the film. Because she has these outbursts, and sometimes they're angry outbursts, sometimes they're funny outbursts, and there was a lot of like moments in the film where the crowd were kind of laughing and chuckling along, and some moments I didn't laugh at, some I did. There's a particular sequence with the tank that I just thought the film just crossed over into such a realm of absurdity, and it tends to do that in very kind of fanciful ways that I thought was quite fun and playful, and seemed in the spirit perhaps of who Audrey was, which again I'm basing this off like a 2-hour movie and a 40-minute kind of Q&A with the director, but like the general sense I got was that Audrey was kind of a playful person. You can see that very purely just in like her pieces of art that were shown throughout the film. And this is probably one of my favorite parts of the whole film, was and I'll just set this up actually before I kind of talk about it, is throughout the movie you'll have scenes of this road trip and this story, and then it'll be punctuated by just the full screen will just take up one of Audrey's art pieces, and it'll hold there for maybe a few seconds, 5 seconds, and it's kind of really nice kind of, again, punctuations, I think, of the scenes, and I feel like it was carefully selected in a way that it kind of went with the flow of the film when you need a bit of a breather, even if it's a very short kind of, 5 second breather. Those pieces were kind of honoring her work and putting them on the big screen in a really interesting way where it kind of blends a little bit into docudrama, not too much, but I like those little flourishes, and I think that they really made the film, and the editing of them, how long they were on screen. I'm an editor, and for me, timing is so. I get so hung up on timing, and I just felt like it was so perfectly placed. It wasn't too brief that you couldn't really register what you were looking at, and it wasn't too long that you started thinking too much about it. And it just was really well done. I thought the editing was fantastic, but the piece that really made me laugh was, I think, from memory, it was something like two women. That was kind of the title of there was two women doing something, and there's like one little random squiggle that's barely even like legible, and an annotation at the bottom saying something to the effect of "didn't have time to draw the second woman," which got a big laugh. And I just thought, like, that seems to kind of reveal so much about her, right? And so I just thought that some of those comedic moments in the film felt very much of Audrey. And one thing that Carol said in her Q&A was that she poured through diaries and writings that Audrey had done, and so there were literal lines that she had written in diaries that she put into the film. And I love stuff like that, because I really think when you can get to like a direct quote and work it into where it doesn't feel like you're shoehorning it in, or I thought that it was nice that those little kind of lines of dialogue were there, not to the point where you're being so focused on having everything factually accurate, but I like that there was those little moments there that kind of represent little tiny nuggets of like pure truth, and then kind of artistically expressing kind of a half portrait of truth of the actual woman in the film itself. So where was I going with this? Yeah, so her kind of like her mental breakdowns throughout the film really manifested themselves in the people they meet along the way, and Audrey would kind of start talking to them as if they were people from her past, some of whom very clearly would not be alive at that point in time. So that it's like the first one is like her headmistress. So that this isn't really her headmistress, and it's just this way of kind of showing, and Carol was talking about this in the Q&A again, so I keep going to that, but it was really interesting for me to hear her put it in this framework, is that instead of doing flashbacks to show you her previous relationships with people and things like that, and telling more of Audrey's story, you can do it in the present with this idea that she is seeing them and talking to them as if that person is right there. And it can lead to a touching moment, it can lead to a very uncomfortable moment. There's this humor that comes out of that. But as I say, for me, sometimes it would be uncomfortable, and I would really feel it in my guts that how horrible it can be for that person, that they are uncontrollable in that moment in the way that other people perceive them. Because I know I've seen these outbursts in real life, and I feel uncomfortable, or I feel like, oh my God, like that's, and then I'm kind of being judgmental, and so I know how that feels to be judgmental. And so seeing Audrey in this film, the character, and getting behind her and wanting her to succeed in this goal, and the whole mission for her is that she wants to exhibit some of her art at this I think it's an art competition or something, and an exhibition, and she wants to submit some work, and it's a very long journey to get there, which she kind of tricks her nurse Kelly MacDonald into taking her there. But you want her to succeed on this mission. You really grow to like her through Monica's performance. Makes her a very likable character. I think very eccentric, wacky, but kind of fun-loving and interesting. It's just lots of little details that I thought really made a really well-rounded, full, entertaining character. And so seeing her have these outbursts, for me, I kind of just was really feeling horrible for her, and feeling and knowing what those judgments would be like in the film and in real life for people who go through this kind of thing and they can't control these outbursts, and then also feeling for the people who care for them. So there's a sequence in a hotel room where she goes into the lobby and she starts freaking out, and Kelly MacDonald comes in, and she kind of has to be very quiet, very calm, collected. Okay, let's sit down, let's play into this fantasy as a way to kind of corral the situation. And I have so much respect for the people who do that line of work, because it is a really thankless job, I think, and it must be an extremely difficult job as well. And it's not always going to work to take this approach or that approach. And there's another really interesting moment where Audrey gets very briefly, I would say, violent, or at least very physically aggressive, and it was really uncomfortable. And I like how Carol didn't portray this as, oh, she's wacky and crazy and then a outsider artist and all this kind of stuff. But it isn't also just like full like melodrama, like really gritty, like, this is a horrible condition or anything. It's a blend of, it felt more realistic. It felt like a way of looking at mental health, which was respectful. It didn't make a spectacle of it. It was considerate, and had many different shades to it. And so I think that just made it a fuller portrayal of someone going through, even an unnamed condition. She isn't really diagnosed, or you're not given you're not given a diagnosis or a kind of label for what her problem is. But you see enough to know that she has moments of great lucidity, moments of huge creativity, but there's a lot of struggles going on there too. And she clearly has something that is very much playing on her mind and giving her a lot of internal anguish and external anguish as well. And so that's kind of the crux of the film, is going on this journey to perhaps quash some of that and maybe manage some of the things that she's been holding on to for a very long time from her past. Anyway, so I thought it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I love just the road trip aspect, different locations and things. And I like films that are really on location and you get to see a bit of the world, even though it's England. I've seen enough of it for sure in my life, but I just like the kind of, I don't know, the tangible feeling of a film that's mostly, and I guess with independent films, you pretty much get that. There's not a lot of sets involved and stuff. Though apparently the set for Audrey's apartment or flat, damn, I'm slipping into the Americanisms. Apparently the set for her flat was like almost like identical, like it was really faithfully recreated from her actual, where she used to live and stuff. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That's something I wouldn't have expected. And Carol even talked about various different versions of the film and ways she could have told Audrey's story through very different, radically different ideas for like a narrative film, which I won't go into. I'll let you maybe one day go to a Q&A screening yourself and find out for yourself, or maybe hopefully there'll be a Blu-ray with some commentary of some sort. I don't know. But I really thought this was a special film. And I was looking on Letterboxd to see what people thought about it, and some pretty harsh critics, I would say. And one thing that really rubbed me the wrong way, someone was talking, there's actually a couple of people saying that, like, oh, Audrey's, mental out, kind of psychiatric breakdowns were very repetitive. I can only assume that they meant this kind of, I don't know, this kind of scenario in which she sees someone from her past in someone else, a stranger. But I mean, that's what having a mental health condition is. It's repetitive. That's just being true to the struggles that people go through. To kind of find new inventive ways for someone to have mental, health outbursts just would seem very strange to me and not authentic. So very strange criticism. But, I really want to see it again. I do hope it comes out on Blu-ray. That's me. It's kind of my thing. But yeah, I really, really like this film a lot. I think it had a lot of heart, and it's, and I don't want to go too deeply into it, but I did see different things in it that I don't want to talk about, of people maybe in my life that it kind of resonated in a way that was quite emotionally touching, and also kind of, I don't know, a bit of anguish internally for me as well. I don't know, it was a strange one, but it makes me think, and I like that it makes me think. I like that it makes me look at my own judgments of, seeing someone quote unquote crazy, talking to themselves in the street and wanting to maybe cross to the other side because, well, there's an unknown, or there's an unpredictability to people like that. And, I'm not saying to walk up to people who are having issues or outbursts, but perhaps to maybe not judge as much as we mostly do. I think a lot of us do judge people who have those kind of struggles, and it made me think about that a lot. And was just an entertaining film. It was heartwarming. It was conflicting as well. There is a sequence in which she goes back to I think it's the first um, what would you call it, psychiatric hospital that she was taken to, and it's abandoned and everything. And her and Kelly MacDonald's character, they just walk through these empty rooms, and that was a very affecting sequence, I thought. Anyway, I've rambled on for too long. Hey, it's me. So go check it out. I would highly recommend it, and I had a great time going to see it and listening to the Q&A. I didn't have any questions. I just had a few technical ones I thought would just bore the people who were in the room, so I decided not to say anything. But I was really taken with the film, and I really enjoyed getting to see two films in one day. That was pretty great, and I want to see Carol's other films. So there's Out of Blue, which is another narrative film, and then there's a documentary, Dreams of a Life. So I might go back and check those out, and that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching. Go check it out, and let me know if you did. I'd love to hear if anyone does actually go and see this film, because I'm sure it's not going to be out for very long either, and it's just one of those things that I think needs to be supported more. Just give it a shot, and I hope you enjoy. If you do indeed, go and check it out. So, Typist, Artist, Pirate King, which is, by the way, the occupation that Audrey apparently put on her own passport. So that's where the title of the film comes from. Again, a real slice of truth from Audrey Amiss herself. I think it's a really cool kind of commemoration, kind of a tribute to the woman herself, but also kind of in its own right, a very entertaining and thought-provoking story and film. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.